Good evening and welcome to tonight's main news bulletin. On a day we celebrate the country's defense forces, the men and women who make sure we uphold our sovereignty and integrity as a nation. My name is Joyce Mabika.
And I'm Justin Matlahla. Of course, Joyce, we also appreciate the sterling work being done by our uniformed forces of ensuring that Zimbabwe remains a safe investment destination. And we are joined by Nobo Maungwa at the sign language desk and later on by Dora Ngube from our Montrose studios in Bulawayo. These are our top stories.
The Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, commends the Defense Forces for defending national interests.
He was addressing thousands who gathered at this year's Defense Forces celebrations in Harare.
Construction of Highlands Primary School in Jishavane nears completion.
And in sport, Warriors Select lift the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Cup after beating ZDF Select 1-0.
Those are some of the stories to look forward to in this bulletin. We now give you our first story. The Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, has commended the country's security forces for their unflinching defense of the country's national interests.
As per tradition, each year the country sets aside a day to celebrate men and women within the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. This year's 44th ZDF anniversary celebrations were held at Rufaro Stadium in Mbare, which was filled to capacity. The Commander-in-Chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, inspected the Guard of Honor soon after arrival. President Mnangagwa highlighted the significance of holding the celebrations in Rufaro grounds, the place where the Union Jack was lowered at independence in 1980, paving way for the hoisting of the Zimbabwean flag.
The choice of Rufaro Stadium invokes sentimental memories. It was at these historic grounds that on the eve of 18 April 1980, when the Union Jack was lowered and the Zimbabwean flag hoisted, that symbolic act marked the birth of an independent and free Zimbabwe. It ushered us into a journey of yet again charting our own course and our own destiny as a free people. It was also in surrounding residential suburbs, such as Mbare and Highfields, where many of our citizens were brutalized for their resistance and rejection of the racist colonial administration. These neighborhoods incubated and strengthened the resolve of many sons and daughters of Zimbabwe to wage the protracted armed liberation struggle for democracy, freedom, and independence we enjoy today.
As he affirmed that Zimbabwe shall never again be under colonial rule, the head of state commended the ZDF for their unflinching defense of national interests.
I commend Zimbabwe Defense Forces for keeping alive the rich liberation ethos, as well as the intricate principles and values deployed at the establishment of a united security apparatus in 1980. Equally, your defense of our national interests as embodied in our national constitution over the years has been exemplary and unflinching. The formidability, reliability, and dependability, professionalism, and discipline of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces remain the guarantor of the peace and security necessary for the development, modernization, industrialization, and prosperity of our motherland, Zimbabwe.
As he focused on the training of the forces, the ZDF Commander-in-Chief said the participation of allied students in training programs brings about enhanced regional military cooperation and inter-force operability. As the country celebrated the Defence Forces, President Mnangagwa noted the various initiatives by government to improve their welfare.
An array of strategies are underway to improve the welfare of members of our defense forces. Non-monetary incentives and benefits, such as civil service housing loans and the civil service vehicle purchase schemes, have been extended to members of defense forces. Further, my government has expanded the transport fleet for the defense forces through the procurement and delivery of an assortment of vehicles. Over and above housing units that are ready for occupation, government will soon be embarking on the construction of 3,000 housing units for members of Zimbabwe Defense Forces. This is part of the comprehensive program by my administration to increase affordable housing stock throughout the country.
Even during peaceful times, the ZDF remains key in national development.
In peace times, defense forces remain a critical cog in our national development agenda. I therefore congratulate the Zimbabwe Defense Forces for living up to our national philosophy that says, Nyika igotongwa igonamatirwa. Hallelujah.
President Mnangagwa also outlined how the ZDF is implementing several community development and assistance projects, such as free medical outreaches and construction of schools and hospitals as part of ongoing civil-military relations. Josephine Mugio, ZBC News, Harare.
Meanwhile, the Zimbabwe Defense Forces has been commended for being exemplary in protecting the nation's sovereignty and territorial integrity while ensuring socio-economic growth of the nation.
This Tuesday marked the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day to honor the bravery and sacrifice of the country's military personnel who have played a critical role in preserving peace while also supporting communities during times of crisis. The Minister of Defense, Honorable Opamchinguri Kashiri, noted that the uniformed forces are prepared to execute their constitutional mandate to ensure development.
Today's occasion provides ZDF and the nation yet another opportunity to remind ourselves of the daunting task ahead of us of protecting and safeguarding our liberation legacy. As we celebrate our Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day under the theme, the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, guaranteeing a conducive environment for the attainment of Vision 2030, your forces are committing themselves that they will defend our hard-won independence through their blood. Wachiti mwoyo yedu yatsidza kufira Zimbabwe kuzadzisa basa ravakasirwa nana mukoma. Ropa ravo richawa reZimbabwe mumakomo nemurwizi wachararamo kuzadzisa basa ravakasirwa. They will continue executing their constitutional mandate, that of protecting Zimbabwe, its people, its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Honorable Mchinguri Kashiri added that the works being carried out by the ZDF are in support of the national vision.
Your Excellency, your defense forces embraced your Vision 2030, that of establishing a prosperous and empowered upper middle income society by 2030. This is in keeping with our second mandate as enshrined in the Constitution, which dictates that we support civil ministries to further their mandate in attaining their national development tasks and in this case, National Development Strategy 1.
The Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe Kazembe, praised the military's role in upholding the rule of law and protecting national interests.
This particular day is set aside to celebrate the good work that our Zimbabwe Defense Forces are doing in protecting our country, protecting our assets, protecting our sovereignty, and ensuring that there is peace at all given times. So it's not very easy, and we want to sincerely thank our Zimbabwe Defense Forces for the good work that they are doing.
The Zimbabwe Defense Forces has been central in national development through not only maintaining peace but also construction of schools and health facilities while carrying out humanitarian works during times of disasters. The country's uniformed forces have also played an integral part in foreign missions to maintain peace within the region. Wellington Makonese, ZBC News, Harare.
In a related story, a wave of jubilation engulfed Rufaro Stadium in Harare as 1,000 voices joined in song to celebrate the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day. Theophilus Juma with that report.
Under the clear blue sky, a harmonious melody filled the air. A moment of exaltation defining a national event that has united people over the past 4 decades. Talk of letting off some steam, the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day provided just the right tonic for many to showcase their singing skills, marinated under a flurry of bass, alto, and tenor. From the Vietnam stand to the VIP pavilion, the wave of excitement swept through Rufaro Stadium like a hurricane. Then came the Defense Forces drills, and the crowd was sent into ecstasy. The joy in their voices tells deep appreciation of these national events.
Ndafara chaizvo nokuti even madisplays aitwa anoratidza kuti nyika yedu is in safe hands. Zvose nemadrills, especially when they had to regain VIP yakeptwa. But I know our security is next to none, it's number 1.
Tinotenda mutungamiri nenyika yedu in safe hands. And tatenda even a speech yemutungamiri.
Defense Forces yange chinakidza. Even chero speech yapiwa na president yange chimotivate even isusu ana echikoro kuti tidzidze neshungu tizoenda kumberi.
Tadzidza kuti tite unit tibatane.
Naimpreswa nekuona mauto edu vachitiratidza zvavanoita mumabharaki mavo tisimo nokuona nevana vadiki vaya kuti ndokutotanga kuguma vana kuti vazikure vachiziva.
Reminiscent of 18 April 1980, the mood of the celebratory night was reincarnated as the Defense Forces showcased perfect displays that left many salivating for more. Theophilus Juma, ZBC News, Harare.
In fact, that wave of jubilation spread across the entire country today as the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day was also marked at various centers across the country with ministers of state presiding over provincial celebrations.
The Bulawayo community has registered its appreciation of the sterling work by the Zimbabwe Defense Forces to contribute to national development through maintaining peace and implementing various infrastructure development programs. In an interview at White City Stadium, the venue for the commemorations of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day in Bulawayo this Tuesday, the people said the country's defense forces is invaluable.
Mina ngesingamila ngaleli liqhakatheke kakhulu ngoba amasotsha siwakhangelelanga ngokuthi balelwa ilizwe kuphela kodwa bayenza imisebenzi eminingi kakhulu elizweni ehlukene njengokuthi khonokho kuyabe kwehlile kwenye indawo noma kuthiwa kule accident mbe kulani sokuhlule lokho lalokho ifabric esihlulekile kodwa iarmy yakwanisa ukungenela incedise khona phana kuncediseke into iqonde kube ngendlela eright.
Ba right amasotsha ngavela anti bavikele ilizwe othi noma kungaba lo msindo uma kulamasotsha wonke uvele mabe khona konke ilizwe liyakhululeka kuya right.
I believe amasotsha aluncedo kakhulu because like we consider them as our security, like they safeguard us in the country.
Some of us we learn some other things through them. Ukubambana, unity, siyafunda into eziningi ngamasotsha.
Masoja akatikoshera kuti ndo vanhu vanotichengetera nyika. Vanotichengetera nyika yedu kuti tigare nerunyararo zvakanaka.
Bayasincedisa kakhulu ngeke sibe kube lilizwe singelabo baqhakathekile kithi.
Official proceedings at the venue started with the arrival of the guest of honor, the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Comrade Judith Ncube, who inspected the guard of honor before a march past in slow and quick time formation before reading the president's speech. It was also entertainment galore owing to drills and mass displays by members of the Zimbabwe Defence Forces and other arts groups.
In Matabeleland, North Province, hundreds gathered at Somkholo Stadium in Lupane to commemorate Defence Forces Day. The annual event proved a major attraction for young people, offering entertainment and inspiration. The vibrant atmosphere, complete with marching displays and live music, captivated the young attendees.
Lokho kuyanceda ukuthi lami ngibona ukuthi impilo injani ukuthi walisoja kunjani kuyanceda njani wenzobona ifootball.
For some, it sparked a desire to pursue a career in the military.
Ngiyathanda ukubuka amasotsha esenza izinto eziningi. Lami ngiyafisa ukuthi ngifunde imphumelelo ezifundweni zami ngibe lisotsha.
Amasotsha yiwo engiwabonile. So lami ngifisa ukuthi ngingafunda ngifuna kuba lisotsha.
Mina ngifisa ukuba lisotsha ngivikele ilizwe lami ngibele isigaba sethu.
In the Midlands province, it was a fun-filled day at Mkoba Stadium in Gweru as the province joined the rest of the country in celebrating the Zimbabwe Defence Forces Day. The men and women in the military establishment did not disappoint the thousands of people who graced the commemorations as they took turns to highlight some of the skills they use in performing their mandate of defending the country from adversaries.
Nyika ino yakauya nemauto nokugwa atinoti maovheti vanga vachingova masoja samasoja edu saka tinouya kuzotsigira masoja edu nokuti ndiwo anotichengetedza munyika ino.
Semaveteran tinofara zvakare kuona vana vachiramba vari mutsika dzokuchengeta nyika nokuti nyika inofanira kuchengetedzwa.
Ivo abasigcinileyo njengelizwe abagcina umthetho abasigcinileyo from izitha, so siyabahlonipha kakhulu baqhakatheke kakhulu.
Ndo first time yangu kusvika pachitiko chakaita sechichi saka ndafara zvikuru nekuonawo zvandaonawo zvizhinji.
Izwa rine nhoroondo rinotiyeuchidza history yatakadzidziswa nevabereki vedu.
The Midlands Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Ncube, led proceedings through inspecting the parade before reading the presidential speech. The ZDF Day is being celebrated after members of the military establishment had commissioned several classroom blocks and clinics in various parts of the province during the ZDF Assistance Week.
In Manicaland Province, the Zimbabwe Defence Forces Day commemorations set Nyanga district alight as the provincial event was held for the first time in the resort town, which also hosted the Heroes Day commemorations. It was pomp and fanfare, with the residents appreciating the contribution of the Defence Forces in promoting peace, protecting national sovereignty and embarking on infrastructural development initiatives across the country.
Tinoona masoja chimacha akawanda zvakafanana wofungoti vamwe vane magesi akushandire but akatifadza isingaiti.
Tine runyararo rwakatikoshera pasina mauto tinenge tisina peace.
Vane wiki ravanobatsira macommunities munharaunda dzesu kuvaka zvikoro, makliniki. Mauto anotibatsira zvakanyanyisa kunyanya pakuchengetedza runyararo munyika yedu yeZimbabwe.
For war veterans, Nyanga district has historic significance to the country's independence.
Mauto yese yezanla akaenda kuMozambique vakaita pass through the eastern border, including the former president vakakrosa nemunyanga. so inyanga ine nhoroondo yakakurisa zvikuru.
Manicaland Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Advocate Misheki Mugadza, presided over the event as he inspected the guard of honor and later read the president's speech.
In Mashonaland Central Province, Defence Forces Day celebrations were held at Chipaze Stadium and started off with arrival of the Bindura Mayor, traditional leaders, service chiefs, and the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Christopher Magomo, who inspected a parade mounted by the Artillery Brigade. 200 outstanding people from around the province were awarded with medals for their contribution to the country's independence, with the recipients expressing delight at the honor.
Toda kupa kutenda kuna president nenyika noruremekedzo rwandapiwa nhasi
ndikuzwa mufaro wakanyanya inini kuhondo ndaiti comrade freedom nyika ndakazvatikwa zvangu kuna guyu pamaramba mutawatawa apo ndikaenda kuhondo ndikanotirenwa nana Tembwe kubva kutembwe ndikazonoshandira inini kumanika province.
Zimbabwe Defence Forces are just a pride of Africa. They are our own pride, same as Zimbabweans. We must always feel great kuti tine vana vakabikwa vakaibva pabasa rechiuto.
The ZDF entertained the crowd with their meticulous drills, while several groups such as Guruve Marimba Traditional Dance Troupe, Blackside Afrofusion Band, and Zimbabwe joined the list of entertainers to cap off the day.
In Masvingo Province, Mucheke Stadium was the place to be as hundreds gathered to commemorate the Zimbabwe Defence Forces Day. Official proceedings were led by Masvingo Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Ezra Chadzamira, who read President Emerson Mnangagwa's speech before conferring independence medals to 200 veterans of the liberation struggle. Those recognized thanked President Mnangagwa and his administration for remembering veterans of the liberation struggle in various forms.
Yotenda president wedu nokuti recognizeawo isusu ticharamba takashinga takachengetedza nyika yedu.
Nhasi ndasungunuka zvisingambobviri, ndahwa mwoyo wangu uchifara ndichikurudzira vana vari muno munyika kuti ngavakoshese nyika yavo.
For the young ones, it was a day full of fun and entertainment, especially from members of the Zimbabwe Defence Forces.
Zimbabwe Defence Forces taona masoja achimacha.
Nhasi zuva reDefence Forces Day.
As the sun rises in the township of Jaunda in Gwanda, residents line up in the streets of the mining town. Wild screams and whistling is heard from the residents as they applaud the members of the Zimbabwe Defence Forces who are marching to mark the Defence Forces Day.
njalo ngabantu abethu abanye sibazele so sebesifuna ubona umsebenzi waphusha kuhlayi lakho lokho nje kusimela nje
kunukubona amasocha ukuthi amachanjani abantu abethu.
Through their well choreographed drills and displays, it was testimony that the men and women in uniform are highly trained. The ZDF also took the opportunity to show off singing and dancing skills, while local artists did not disappoint with their stellar performances. Apart from the fanfare, the ceremony was presided over by the Minister of State for Matabeleland South Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Evelyn Ndlovu, who inspected the parade after her arrival before delivering the President's speech.
In Mashonaland West Province, Chinhoyi Stadium was packed to its full capacity as residents joined the rest of the nation in commemorating the Defence Forces Day. The event was officiated by the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Marian Chombo, who also delivered the President's speech. The ZDF were applauded for complementing government's development efforts under the war of government approach.
Mauto pachawo ari kubatsira nyika zvisingatoiti nokuti hapana pavasiri kusvika kubvira kudzivirira nyika nokuasosieta muma villages matigere.
The uniformed forces lived up to the expectations as they put forward polished military displays and drills.
Kune dzimwe nyika unotoona mwana mudiki kana mwana weprimary achifamba nefuti muhomwe. Whereas in Zimbabwe ukatoonekwa une weapon kana banga kana anything kana ma screwdriver avatotenderi kutongoona kana rekeni chaidzo kureva kuti inongova nyika ikangosununguka.
Masoja nemapurisa vanga vari kuratidzawo unyanzvi hwavo kuti vana vedu vari kukura vaonewo vachifarira kuti nyange pavanozoita sarudzo muupenyu vanoitawo sarudzo yavo vachiziva zvazvakanakira nezvazvakaipira.
We have a peaceful environment in Zimbabwe. For without peace hapana development tinokwanisa kuita as a nation.
Meanwhile, the Zimbabwe Defence Forces are also taking a leading role in the country's infrastructure modernization programs through their community assistance projects, particularly benefiting rural communities.
Now shifting our attention from the celebrations held in honor of our defense forces, a special envoy from Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Ambassador Mohamed Yeslam Beysat, paid a courtesy call on President Emmerson Mnangagwa at State House in Harare this Tuesday to deliver a special message from President Brahim Ghali.
This Tuesday afternoon saw a special envoy from the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Ambassador Mohamed Yeslam Beysat, delivering a letter from President Brahim Ghali to his counterpart, President Emmerson Mnangagwa. Briefing the media after a closed-door meeting with President Mnangagwa, Ambassador Beysat said the message was centered on the bilateral relations between the two countries and the challenges the Sahrawi people are facing in relation to their independence. The special envoy also stressed that there have been calls from head of state level for cooperation between Zimbabwe and Sahrawi to increase.
Conveyed a letter from his brother and colleague, His Excellency President Brahim Ghali. The letter is related to the bilateral relation, the excellent bilateral relations that have always existed between Sahrawi Republic and Zimbabwe. It's also related to the situation, briefing about the situation, the ongoing situation of the struggle of the Sahrawi people for independence, national independence and freedom. Mr. President was very kind where he reaffirmed the constant position of Zimbabwe in support of the struggle of the Sahrawi people and the support of the struggle of the Sahrawi Republic.
The special envoy also stressed that there have been calls from head of state level for cooperation between Zimbabwe and Sahrawi to increase.
The two countries have a wide range of cooperation that almost on many aspects. The President have instructed us to have more widen and strengthen this cooperation and make it in the service of our two nations.
The Western Sahara, which is a former Spanish colony, was annexed by Morocco in 1975, and since then there have been ongoing territorial disputes between Morocco and the Sahrawi inhabitants, led by the Polisario Front. Josephine Mugio, ZBC News, Harare.
The 4-kilometer dualized stretch along the Harare Bight Bridge Road in Waterfalls opened to traffic this Tuesday as more roads continue to be rehabilitated by government.
Attending the Defence Forces Day commemorations at Urfaro Stadium in Harare, Transport and Infrastructural Development Minister Honorable Felix Mona proceeded to commission a completed section of the dual carriageway of the Harare Bight Bridge Road from Waterfalls towards the Mbudzi interchange. In his remarks, Minister Mona said Zimbabweans should be used to opening of new roads, demonstrating the Second Republic's work ethic.
Today we are happy celebrating the Defence Forces Day, again witnessing major milestone in the infrastructure development, signifying the work ethic of the Second Republic under the visionary leadership of His Excellency Comrade Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa. We are happy as a ministry where we have seen a number of projects being initiated by His Excellency. And today we are witnessing this stretch that we are opening, which is part of Bay Bridge Harare Road.
Minister Mona also gave an update on the Mbudzi interchange project.
We had the challenge of properties around within the precincts of the interchange, which actually had to delay the progress. So now the contractor was ready to move according to schedule, but because of those properties, and you know some of the property owners, they to take government to court, which is now sub judice, But we are saying at the end of the day, if all goes well, we are going to be compensating those remaining properties and make sure that before the end of the year, the interchange will be functional.
Local road construction company Tensa is behind the works on this part of the road stretch.
This project, Harare Bay Bridge, is 480 kilometers, and so far only 100 kilometers is left. And of those 100 kilometers, only 15 kilometers is between Harare and Masvingo. So basically to say, between Harare and Masvingo, we are done. So as for our section for Tensa systems, the section that we are opening is 3.8 kilometers of dual carriageway, and it's going to run all the way into the Harare CBD.
Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Transport and Infrastructural Development is equally impressed by the work being done in roads development.
This continued trajectory on the way we are building our road infrastructure in this country, it gives us hope as a nation that indeed the Second Republic is taking us somewhere, and particularly towards achieving Vision 2030. So we are really happy as a nation that we are no longer stagnant. We are moving step by step.
Minister Mona also revealed that government is now shifting focus to the North-South Corridor road rehabilitation exercise up to the Chirundi border post, with the work set to commence soon. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Harare.
The Council of Ministers meeting, a precursor to the 44th SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government, was held at the new Parliament building in Mount Hamden this Tuesday.
With the banging of the gavel, Foreign Affairs and International Trade Minister Ambassador Frederick Shava took over as chair for the 44th SADC Council of Ministers from his counterpart and Angolan Minister for External Affairs, Honorable Tete Antonio, here at the new Parliament building in Mount Hamden. SADC Executive Secretary, His Excellency Mr. Elias Mahosi said the time is now for SADC member states to come together to push for enhanced regional integration for economic growth.
SADC recognizes that peace, security, and good governance provide pathways for integration and socio-economic development of the region. To this end, SADC continue to make timely interventions to consolidate peace and stability in the region. The deployment of missions in the Cabo Delgado province of the northern Mozambique and the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo are a response to the emergent threats to our cherished peace.
As he handed over the chairmanship, Honorable Tete Antonio said he applauded member states' response to disasters as well as calls for regional integration towards empowerment as well as social, economic and political development.
With the end of my mandate, I feel greatly honored for the opportunity to have served as the chairperson of the Council of Ministers of SADC and for working hand in hand with all of you aiming at building our regional integration agenda. The Council of Ministers plays a key role in overseeing the implementation of policies and programs of organizations, and also in advising the heads of state and the government.
In his speech, Ambassador Frederick Shava said he is delighted to take over as chair at a time where regional response to economic development and as well as social and political development is on a positive trajectory.
Let us continue to foster our regional development plan anchored on the foundation of peace, security, and good governance. Peace and stability are fundamental ingredients for a regional transformative agenda. Without them, our aspirations and vision will be gravely compromised.
The SADC Council of Ministers acts as an advisor to the Heads of State and Government Summit. Over the next few days, we will see the SADC Badea Investments Forum as well as a public lecture being held at the University of Zimbabwe ahead of the SADC Troika Summit this Friday before President Emerson Mnangagwa takes over as chair for the regional body on the 17th of August. Olina Andori, ZBC News, Mount Hampden.
In a related report, the participation of young women in regional spaces was topical during the final day of the SADC Youth Forum held in Harare this Tuesday. We get the details from Farai Gwaze.
The 6th Southern Africa Youth Forum convened in Harare this Tuesday to empower young leaders and amplify their voices in shaping the region's future. A key focus of the discussions was the crucial need to elevate young women's participation in regional leadership and policy-making processes.
We have noted as young women, especially young urban women, that the huge part of the SADC deliberations have been the industrialization strategy. And so we hope that when we are employing this industrialization strategy as the SADC, we might make sure that our interventions are very thorough so that young women are included and so that inequalities are tackled before we even employ the strategies that we want to employ in terms of industrialization and the other aspects of the SADC summit that are going to be discussed by the heads of state.
Ms. Solegela Slu Mulamodi of Action Aid South Africa called for a relook at the neoliberal policy framework, citing its negative impact on women and advocating for a more inclusive approach.
One of our recommendations have been a relook at the framework because as it stands, SADC countries have taken a stance to adopt a neoliberal policy, and we have seen how austerity measures and privatization has negatively affected women in the region and across the continent. So ours has been to request for a relook at that policy and to ensure that it's broader, that there is public support to ensure the inclusion of women and society in general.
By submitting these recommendations, the forum aims to drive positive change and shape a more inclusive and empowering policy framework for the region. Farai Gwaze, ZBC News, Harare.
2 people are feared dead while several others were injured in a road traffic accident involving 2 commuter omnibuses at the intersection of Seke and St. Patrick's Roads in Harare this morning.
A fatal road traffic accident was witnessed in Harare this morning involving 2 omnibuses which were traveling towards opposite directions, with one going to town and another headed for Chitungwiza. Eyewitnesses revealed that the accident was mainly caused by negligence and speeding.
Ndapa avana motors apa dzaita hedoni panga pene bongo yange yamira pa island ichida kuchena kupinda muna St. Patrick's kweta baby quantum yange ichibva kuchitungwiza necaravan yange ichibva kutown. So caravan yange ichibva kutown yange ichifamba manormal speeds sezvenge richi yange ri mu right lane. Iyi manje yange ichiteedzana nebhongwe ndo yabva yaovertake manje bhongo ichiuya neku oncoming ndokusangana kwayaita necaravan yange ichibva kutown.
Panapa kandofunga kuti pari nani paiswe mahambu twetwe kuti mota inoredusa speed post kana pakaiswa marobots vanhu ava respecte marobots zvangofanira pana airport road apo zogara dzichirowana pane marobots saka pakaiswa tumahambu twetwe at least mota dzinoredusa speed dzichidaiwo.
Tatichikumbira kuti ngaise mahambu munhu azonyanyi kumhanya akatsika 1 achimhanya rechitu haachamhanya anenge atoredusa speed.
Rodi iri inini ndinomborishandisa ndambokwira lift riri dangerous, unotofamba uchitya because madriver ari pahard drive zvanaka. Indi truck driver inini kubve Mutare kusvika muHarare muno makaiswe mahambu muhighway, but apa anotadza sei kuise mahambu ekuti maspeed hump because speed hump inobatsira.
The injured were taken to Chitungwiza and Salim Mugabe hospitals in Harare. The Zimbabwe Republic police officers attended the scene, but the national spokesperson, Commissioner Paul Nyati, is yet to give final details. Tarai Maduyu, ZBC News, Harare.
Remember to visit our website for these and more stories in greater detail. It's www.zbcnews.co.zw. You can also link up with us on various social media platforms. We are ZBC News Online on YouTube, X, and also on Facebook and Instagram.
And these are stories still to come in this bulletin. In business news, construction of Highlands Primary School in Zhishavane nears completion.
And in sport, Warriors Select lift the Zimbabwe Defence Forces Cup after beating ZDF Select 1-0. Do join us for these and more stories in detail after this break.
This is the currency we've been waiting for. A currency that's not just paper and coins, but a symbol of Zimbabwe's rich resources and stability. That's Zimbabwe Gold. This is ZIG. Let's dive into what makes ZIG not just a new currency, but a new beginning for Zimbabwe's economy. ZIG is born out of a blend of traditional and innovative financial wisdom, anchored in gold and precious metals, along with foreign currency reserves. This backing isn't just for show. It's a promise of stability and trust, ensuring that ZIG's value is as solid as the gold it's pegged to. From the bustling markets of Harare to the serene landscapes of rural Zimbabwe, ZIG is set to become the medium of exchange that's both reliable and accessible. With denominations ranging from ZIG 200 to ZIG 1 and even handy coins, it caters to every transaction, big or small. Transitioning to ZIG is a breeze. It's all about inclusivity, ensuring no one is left behind in Zimbabwe's financial renaissance. ZIG doesn't walk alone. It co-circulates with other foreign currencies under Zimbabwe's multi-currency system, enriching our financial landscape. It's a legal tender that not only simplifies transactions, but also restores confidence in our economy, promising a future where stability and growth go hand in hand. So why ZIG? Because it's more than just money. It's a symbol of Zimbabwe's resilience, a step towards an economy where stability is the norm, and every Zimbabwean can look forward to a prosperous future. Welcome to the era of Zimbabwe Gold, where our currency is our pride.
Tanangani heroes. Chidakuedzana maZimbabweans kuti tisakanganwa kwatakabva. Kune magamba vakafira nyika ino. They sacrificed for us varamudori isu today. Kuti tive zvatiri. Vaenda kuhondo. Kusingana bharago mari. Nyika ino vakwane vene vayo. And the dream of Zimbabwe inouya naMwari wokwedu. Iyeso takanangani heroes. This August. Vana mbuya nihana nanasiri kwagubi nana Robert Mugabe nani vose Ebert Chitepo. Vaibva vati munangagwa. Takupa kuti taunyuka kuti tadzoka newe SADC chairperson uri kuuya. Saka my comrades, my heroes edu magamba edu, we thank you for the well done job ramakatiitira, and nhasi we will never ever let you down. Atitengesi isu is a public demand. 2030 president Mnangagwa munenge muripo.
75 days since the last day of last season. We are ready to do it all again. Phil Foden is having the season of his life. Brilliant! Just brilliant! That is quite something!
Upgrade to DSTV Compact for $30 a month to get all the football action you want.
Texting while driving. What a dangerous thing to do on the wheel. Be smart. Put the phone down. Don't text and drive. This message is brought to you by the Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe. Safety first. There is no second chance.
Did you know that the government of Zimbabwe, through the Ministry of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, offers legal services to indigent persons in both criminal and civil matters? Visit our legal aid department offices in Harare, Gweru, Bulawayo, Masvingo, Mutare, Bindura, Wange, Chipinge, Chivu, Chiredzi, and Chinoi. You can also visit our website at justice.gov.zw or follow our Twitter handle at MOJRPA for more information. We are leaving no one and no place behind. The Ministry of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. We uphold, develop, and provide accessible, efficient, and effective justice delivery.
I know the comrades who came to prison thereafter at Kaimaswa prison. What happened was that there was a group of 14 comrades who had trained, and they were sent across. At the time, the late chairman Chitepo was the head of our external wing of ZANU, and I think it was Noel Mkono who was responsible for defense. And the commander at the time, I think, was Mataure, the Legion Mataure. So these chaps were sent in from Zambia. There were 14. But after they crossed the Zambezi, they split into two groups. One group went to Mashonaland West. The other drifted towards Mashonaland East. And but the mission was to come and do recruitment in the country and establish bases on the border with Zambia, so that when the other forces would come, they would find they would have done all the commissariat work and they would have identified points where we would hide arms and so on.
Welcome back. Rufaro Stadium in Harare, which hosted the 2024 Zimbabwe Defense Forces Day National Celebrations, is an iconic symbol of Zimbabwe's independence thanks to the sacrifices made by the country's brave sons and daughters.
It is referred to as the ceremonial home of Zimbabwean football, having hosted some of the country's biggest football matches. However, Rufaro Stadium remains deeply entrenched in the country's liberation history. The dawn of Zimbabwe's Uhuru was highly marked at the iconic stadium when thousands of people thronged the venue for the country's independence celebrations that featured legendary reggae artist the late Bob Marley, who had then fallen in love with the country in his steadfastness and resilience in fighting the colonial white regime. Rufaro Stadium, situated in one of the country's oldest suburbs of Mbare, ignites significant memories for the majority of Zimbabweans, and this year it was indeed a befitting venue for hosting this year's Defense Forces Day celebrations, honoring uniformed forces for their heroic contribution to the country's attainment of independence and the maintenance of peace. It is, however, the resemblance of Rufaro Stadium as a key symbol in the country's annals of liberation history that essentially qualifies to be recognized for its historical significance. The stadium is located in Mbare, a suburb which is also home to several iconic features and symbols of the liberation struggle, such as Mbuya Misodzi and Stoddard Halls, which used to be meeting places for the Zimbabwean patriots to strategize on how to execute the liberation struggle. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Harare.
We'll now cross over to our Montrose studios in Bulawayo, where we are joined by Dora Ngube. Good evening, Dora, and it's over to you.
Good evening, Justin and Joyce. Minutes for us on for the first part of the bulletin. We continue with the main news. Construction of Highlands Primary School by Zvishavane Town Council through devolution funds is at an advanced stage.
Despite being endowed with vast mineral deposits, Zvishavane has for years suffered stunted growth owing to lack of investment in infrastructure. However, the devolution program, which commenced with the dawn of the Second Republic, is proving a blessing for this and many other districts, with the various projects now benefiting the locals, which include the procurement of a new water pump, completion of Mandava sewer pipeline, and construction of Highlands Primary School, which is set for opening next month.
Zvinatisi kutambura mvura iri kuuya mazuva ese saka tiri kufara nazvo nekuti tashungurudzika nenhau yemvura. Vamwe tinenge tine vana vadiki, vamwe tinenge tiri pamajuti, saka mvura yanga ichitinetsa, asi pari zvino tiri kufara nazvo kuti mvura iri kuuya mazuva ese.
Kuwanda kwezvikoro kwakanaka pakuti vana vedu vamwe vari mudhuze muno vane vasingachafambi kuenda kure, vane vava padhuze vakuuya padhuze ipapa, saka zvinhu zvakakosha kuti kanzuro ivhure chikoro ichi.
Zvishavane Acting Town Council Secretary Mr. Alan Chaparadza praised President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration for giving traction to the devolution initiative that he said has enabled them to improve service delivery.
Iye zvino zvikoro zvedu zvakati shomeke. Tine Gresham Primary School as a local authority, tine Makwasha Primary School as a local, and this is becoming a third one. Vana vese vari mu Lot 4, vana vese vari mu Highlands, vana vese vari kuIzai Park vanenge vakufamba. We want to reduce the walking distance as per the presidential mantra. Within 5 kilometers tinofanira kunge tichikwanisa kuisa chikoro kana zvichibvumirira.
Service delivery is gradually improving the cash-strapped municipality as government continues to put in funds for capital projects under the devolution initiative. Karejushe, ZBC News, Zvishavane.
The adoption of drip irrigation business units in villages around Buhera district has resulted in significant water savings and improved agricultural productivity.
As the sun rises, the cock crows to signal the start of a new day, and behold, work awaits for these villages. Mudanda, Dandi, Chukua, and other villages have immensely benefited from the government's initiative of nutritional business units that are flourishing. Despite the El Nino-induced drought, families are able to sustain themselves on homegrown produce while also protecting their environment.
Zviri kutibatsirawo panguva yechirimo yatati tisingakwanisi kuwanawo zvikafu zvakawanda wanda.
Tanga kuzviita takatsaona kuti zvakutobhadhara. For example, tine chibage chamuri kuna chiri pamusoro takutochitengesa mamilk $4 tikashaya upfu vana vanobika chibage vonwa tea vararama. Tikashaya upfu tinotora mamilk cobs green cobs tonotengesa $4 kumarket kana kuma township towana kamari kekutenga upfu tatorarama.
Chirongwa ichi ndiri kuona chakanaka zvikuru nokuti kugara kwose munomamstomborina that program. Saka tatingori munzara bva pese apa. But now as it is ndiri kuona kunyange even madzimai edu akutofara kana makuhwa mashoma havana kwachifamba vachienda in this garden.
As government commits to attainment of Vision 2030, empowering local communities to manage their water resources fosters a sense of ownership and accountability.
Buhera being a very dry region, we are pleased to see the fruits of the presidential borehole scheme, whereby people are now establishing village units for sustenance, and not only sustenance, empowerment. Vanhu vakukwanisa kutorima zvirimwa zvavo vachinotengesa kwamurambinda kushops. Saka naizvozvo tiri kuona kuti Vision 2030 is not only here to sustain families but to empower them.
Through the presidential borehole sinking program, the intervention is making a huge difference for families not only in Buhera but across the country, as one drop at a time has focused on food security and reliable sources of water for households. Memory Chamisa, ZBC News, Buhera.
Youths in Ngezi are reaping rewards from the establishment of an enterprise that specializes in mine support systems, thereby creating employment and reducing their import bill.
In the heart of Ngezi in Mashonaland West Province, a youth-led combined technical services which is into metal fabrication and mining equipment repurposing factory has been established with support from local mining firm Zimplats. The enterprise that is also into chemical engineering and hydraulics has become a lifeline for youths.
It's great that we are now part of developing. As youth, we have always wanted an opportunity to grow, to have experience.
We're identifying damaged components so that we can coat, and then we buy those components and replace.
We are benefiting a lot to provide services from the Zimplats and also experience.
Local mining companies are benefiting through import substitution.
Fabricating buckets, dump boxes, life extensions of machines, a UV that I've shown you, the scissor lifter. We used to send it out for life extensions, but now we are doing it locally. As you can see from this team, we have people, young people that are coming from Midlands, some are coming from Marsh Central, some are coming from local, and all the employees in total, they are totaling up to, say, 80.
Government said the establishment of Dinson Iron and Steel Company will propel local enterprises such as these to full productivity.
They are now the equipment that would otherwise have been abandoned because they would have reached the life cycle, but they repurpose it and they give it an extra 4 years, new 4 years, more like a new product altogether.
The Second Republic, through the National Development Strategy 1, has placed emphasis on rural industrialization to spur socio-economic development in line with Vision 2030.
And that's it from us here at Montrose. We now take it back to Joyce and Justin for news.
Thank you, Dora. We go to the courts where domestic violence and theft account for nearly half the number of criminal cases handled in Harare, according to the National Prosecuting Authority of Zimbabwe.
According to statistics for the second quarter availed by the National Prosecuting Authority of Zimbabwe on its X handle, cases of domestic violence are topping the criminal cases handled in Harare courts. Over 600 cases of domestic violence in Harare, Mbare, Shtungwiza, Norton and Epworth courts were brought forward, with 471 having been completed. 599 theft cases were brought before the various courts in Harare, with 507 completed. Violent crimes, including armed robbery, rape, and murder, account for over 500 cases brought before the courts. During the second quarter, over 3,000 cases were handled, with more than 2,000 completed, marking a significant milestone in NPA's efforts to curb crime. The authority has also tightened up procedures to ensure cases are expedited with minimum postponements. Fungai Jachi, ZBC News, Harare.
The main news will take a break now. When we return, we give you the odds.
SPW for AD, people live with disability. For AD, we are happy with you, our president. Now we have said that Moita, our star president, more demonstrator, more with the president, more with the Iswafan or Kura, Istaka Spatra, Namu. To the test of Passata, Panapa, my fetters among me, Pami, what you own us at which is a Zimbabwe, that is for me. Takado Suni kind of one. Where there's a good no one what you plan out, I know. To out Saturday, each day. Sagamano Shanti Siwa, you are waiting time. Monom Zimbabwe, he is also staff for Casa Saturday. President Nangaba, we are behind you as disabled people.
The Ministry of Tourism and Hospitality Industry will be hosting the SADC Tourism Night at the Museum of African Liberation in the Heritage Cultural Village on the 15th of August 2024. Please note, attendance strictly by invitation. Experience the vibrant culture of Zimbabwe through traditional cuisine, music and dance. Enjoy performances by renowned artists Diana Samkange and Dimuridzo and Killer T as they showcase the rich Zimbabwean musical tradition. This event is a celebration of the Southern African Development Community's diverse heritage and promises an evening of cultural immersion and entertainment. Celebrating His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, on being appointed as the incoming chairman of the SADC. Congratulations, Zimbabwe.
The board, management, and staff of the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe joined the head of state and government and commander-in-chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, and the nation in commemorating the Heroes and Defense Forces Days. We value your sacrifice and selflessness. We shall remain committed to the development and prosperity of our country. Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe, safety, security, quality, and efficiency.
Welcome back. The Kingdom World Tour Concert Zimbabwe, featuring American gospel outfit Maverick City, lived up to its billing as the international stars gave a memorable performance last night. Patience Nyagato reports.
Rich and poor come together now.
As part of their world tour, Maverick City was at the Glamorous Arena in Harare Monday evening, where they left no crumbs, putting up a spirited performance. The gospel outfit, which rose to fame during the COVID-19 pandemic, dished out some of the songs of hope that kept many alive during the lockdown period. Together with Nigerian star Tim Godfrey, Maverick City ushered gospel lovers into an ecstatic moment, with the performance of Godfrey's hit, Big God, being among the major highlights. Following a conflict prior to the show that led to local supporting acts pulling down, Kirk Franklin, during his performance, took time to address his audience on what he believes.
I know before we got here that there was a lot of discussion about who we believe in. And I need to make the record clear so you know. There are not a lot of ways to God. There's one way. His name is Jesus.
The show was Maverick City's debut performance, while Kirk was performing in the country for the second time after more than a decade. After the performance in Harare, the outfit is now set for Ghana as it completes its world tour. Patience Nyagato, SABC News, Harare.
Hallelujah.
And that's our look at the arts. Next, we take a look at sport after this break.
Want to elevate your entertainment? Then add Showmax to your DSTV subscription at a discount. Showmax is not a TV channel. It's an on-demand video streaming service on showmax.com. To add Showmax to your DSTV subscription, simply use the My DSTV app. Select Add Showmax. The app screen will display the discount you qualify for. Now you can enjoy exclusive shows and movies you won't find anywhere else. Add Showmax to elevate your entertainment.
In 1976 at Chimoy, that's when we decided to have our first conference outside Chimoy. And we elected him president. Reluctantly, he didn't like. He felt, no, we must go home and we can be done at home because the last conference or congress was in Zimbabwe, in Beru. So he wanted it back home here, but we said, no, we have you here as political wing, and we would want to have a leader. We cannot conduct good conferences, and they were led by Secretary General as the leader of delegation, and other political parties had presidents. So we pressed for him accepting leadership of Zambia. In the end, he accepted.
Welcome back. The Warriors Select lifted the 2024 ZDF Cup after beating Zimbabwe Defence Forces Select side 1-0 at Rufaro Stadium this Tuesday.
At a packed Rufaro Stadium, Warriors trialist and Zimbabwe striker Timon Machup ensured that those who did not know him now have a true picture of his qualities. The lanky striker scored the solitary goal in an entertaining match to give the Warriors Select side a win in the 2024 ZDF Cup. Watched by their commander, General Philip Valerio Sibanda, the ZDF side tried to come back into the game but found the Warriors' defense unyielding. The decider of the match was ecstatic.
I'm very happy because if you are being selected for the national team to represent the national team, you have to deliver. As a striker, you have to score.
The Warriors Select were handed their trophy and the 19,500 United States dollars check by the Deputy Minister of Defense, Brigadier General retired Levi Maihlome, while the Deputy Minister of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture, Honorable Emily Josiah, and the Director of Sport and Recreation, Dr. Junior Chidakwa, are among the dignitaries who graced the 2024 ZDF Cup. Lawrence Trusida, ZBC News, Harare.
Harare Giants Dynamos are optimistic of a successful hunt in their CAF Confederation Cup preliminary round match against Zesco United of Zambia, with a match set for Gaborone, Botswana this Sunday.
After engaging with various stakeholders in Botswana for their CAF Confederations Cup preliminary round set to be hosted in Gaborone, Harare Giants Dynamos are ready to kickstart the campaign on a high note. The club's Chief Executive Officer Jonathan Mashingaidze confirmed the Glamour Boys' readiness for the tie set for the 25,000-seater Botswana National Stadium in Gaborone on Sunday.
The visit afforded us the opportunity to appreciate the match venue, which is the National Stadium in Gaborone. It's a 22,000-seater, and we got all the configurations in terms of making sure that we'll be ready to manage the event.
Mashingaidze implored the footballing community to rally behind Zimbabwe's representatives taking part in continental competitions.
After our Sunday game on the 18th of August, we'll then stay put in Gaborone for 3 days before departing for Ndola. We saw it fit to remain in Botswana and allow the team to recover and prepare for the return leg, which is set for Saturday the 24th of August at the Levi Manawasa Stadium.
Dynamos leave this Thursday and will set up camp at the Township Roller Sports Complex. The Glamour Boys are not new in Botswana, having played Mochudi Center Chiefs in 2015. Mtowozi Stuve, ZBC News, Bulawayo.
In other news, Zambia's Jericho Mono of the Neri stable was crowned the winner of the 5th edition of the ZKS Spinning and Drifting Contest held in Bulawayo this Monday.
After dishing out some highlights and leaving the crowd yearning for more during the independence burnout, focus was on the Zambian spinner Santos to continue from where he left off, but it was not to be, as fellow countryman Jericho Mono stole the show. With 5 years spinning experience, Mono proved to be the real deal, captivating the fans who came out in their numbers in support of the sport. The Zambian, who was celebrating his birthday, extended his will to conduct lessons for the Spinning Academy.
I'm Jericho Mono. Those are my names. I'm coming from Zambia. I'm presenting Zambia. As you can see, it's Team Neri, Zambia. I would like to encourage those who want to learn how to drift and spin. I'm someone who's open to share my skills with someone who is willing to do what I'm doing.
South Africa's Kuja was also another contestant who gave his all during the drifting session.
People here in Zimbabwe are very welcoming than the people in South Africa. This is what they have too much care than we have in South Africa. Yes, so I enjoy it. It's a great feeling being here.
Spinning is slowly becoming a dominant sport in Bulawayo following the establishment of the ZKS Arena, and organizer of the tournament, Zakele Mlilo, says they intend to hold burnouts quarterly.
The numbers are growing, they are great. We are grateful, and being a holiday, school holiday, being heroes, you know, people decided to come out with the families to support us.
The tournament sponsors are happy with ZKS initiatives.
Siyakunanzelela ngoba i-crowd esiyibona lapha ngontanga about ngalesi sikhathi ma bengekho lapha bangagcina bengene kuma drugs, kodwa lokhu kuyasijabulisa ukuthi we need to support this spinning ngoba abantu abethu abanengi lapha keep up busy.
The fifth burnout was a tournament hosted as part of Heroes Day celebrations. Mthokozi Stube, ZBC News, Bulawayo.
And that story concluding our look at sport. Up next is the report and Focused.
Good evening, Zimbabwe, and welcome to tonight's weather report and forecast. The Met Department has been celebrating 100 years of giving you the weather forecast. That's since 1924. But in terms of collecting data, it's more than 150 years. And as we look into our forecast for today, we have a bit of cloudy conditions over the southern parts because of cooling winds that drifted in. But tomorrow promises to be warmer and gets windy again on Thursday and Friday, but it warms up during the weekend. And this is the system that has been causing cooler conditions with a bit of cloudy conditions over Matabele and South and Masvingo, but this should clear off as we get into Wednesday. We're expecting mostly sunny skies. As we get into Thursday and Friday, we're expecting those cloudy conditions to drift back into the southern parts of the country, giving us cooler conditions over Matabele and South Masvingo as well as Manicaland. But the weekend promises to be mostly sunny and warm across much of the atmosphere. And as such, for our detailed temperature, we're expecting a bit of cooling as we get into the evening today, where we're expecting those green colors, but it gets warmer on Wednesday across much of the board. But on Thursday, we're expecting it to be cooler over the southern parts of the country, as well as on Friday, we were expecting a bit of southeasterlies over those southern areas. But the weekend promises to be mostly sunny across board. And as such, for detailed temperature forecast, we're expecting mostly the 13s and the 11s across the main watershed. We were expecting cooler conditions, but it gets mild over the Zambezi Valley as well as the Limpopo Valley, where we're getting a bit of 17s and 15s. As we look into tomorrow, we're expecting mostly sunny skies across much of the country, with most of our temperatures in the 30s, except for Harare, we're getting about 29. And for our detailed forecast, Bulawayo is projected to be mostly sunny with a bit of cloudy conditions as we get into Friday because of the cooling southeasterlies. But Chinoy is generally sunny and warm across board with a few dips here and there. Gwanda is affected by a bit of cloud as we get into Friday, and the windy conditions from Thursday, dropping our temperatures to about 26. 26 also projected for Gweru, but mostly under sunny skies over Gweru area. But for Harare, we're expecting it to be mostly sunny and warm across board, just a slight dip as we get into the weekend. But it warms up over Kadoma. We're expecting maximums of 30 across board for most of the areas. For Kariba, it's mostly sunny and warm with the maximums of 31 and above, 32 and above for Lupani for most of the days, and the maximum of 35 projected over tomorrow. Kwekwe, mostly sunny and warm for the great city Masvingo. We're expecting a bit of cooling winds and touches of cloud on Thursday into Friday. And for Matopos, it's windy and cloudy as we get into Friday, and maximums of 28, 21, our maximum for Nyanga with a bit of windy weather. Victoria Falls mostly sunny and warm as we get into the weekend. And with that, we wish you a pleasant week ahead. It's James Ngoma Jr. for the Met Department.
Well, many thanks there to James Ngoma Jr. and the Med Services Department as we say happy anniversary as they reached 100 years of giving us nothing but the best in terms of the weather report and forecast. That's it for the main news for tonight. From all of us here, it's good night.
Good night.